Hey everyone, a few months ago I launched a new series called the Media Content Workflow Upgrades series, a bit of a mouthful to be honest, but the whole idea of that series was that how I was producing YouTube videos was increasingly getting quite laggy for a range of reasons. For example, I was using wireless mice, which is never really ideal because when you're video editing you need quite good precision, and there was just too much lag there. I was also using Adobe Premiere Pro, which is quite a laggy bit of software, so I've actually switched that. I also didn't have enough disk space locally on my computer, so what I was doing was my old files for videos that I've done in the past. They were stored on my old Synology NAS, which has mechanical hard drives, and then if I wanted B-roll, if I wanted to reuse some of those video files, I was having to take them from my Synology NAS, drag them to my computer to then use in the latest video, and that was quite slow as well. Equally, I only had one monitor, so I was constantly alt and tabbing between Premiere Pro and File Explorer and everything else, and that was quite laggy too. So basically, I launched a series of videos where I was talking through exactly how I fixed each problem that I had, and I'm now a lot happier with my media content workflow. So what changes did I actually make? Well, the first one, as I've alluded to, was I actually went out and bought a proper mice, because wireless mice are just rubbish. I had loads of these in my cupboard, and then at some point I just ended up using them. But now I've got a proper Razer mice. But now I've got a proper wired mouse. It's the Razer Essential. It's quite a cheap one, but actually the fact that it's wired, it does help, and it's got buttons on the side as well, and being able to go back and forward is quite useful because sometimes you're in File Explorer. Maybe you go into a particular folder to get a sound effect or something, and then you can just click a back button and go back, and that is a lot easier. And that might seem like a weird tip. I've always relied on cheap wireless mice, so I'm actually quite grateful I've actually changed. Another upgrade that I made is I used to be using Adobe Premiere Pro for my video editing software, but I've now switched that to DaVinci Resolve, which is a lot better. Firstly, it's free, which is great, so you don't have to pay like £200 odd to Adobe every year, But secondly, it's just a much better bit of software. Everything's faster, it's easier to do things, and it's still really powerful. So there's some smaller upgrades that I've made, but one of the bigger upgrades I've actually made is I built my HomeLab NAS, which is a separate AM5 based system. I went with a motherboard that has space for 3 M2 NVMe slots, because the idea of this is that I'm actually going to be packing that out full of M2 NVMe drives, and all my video content will live on there. And then I do my video editing over the network, so I'm sat on this computer, but I'm actually using a wired Ethernet connection from an Ethernet cable that runs through my loft, going into my HomeLab NAS, and whenever I want to get some footage for a current video, I could just immediately stream it through my HomeLab NAS with no lag at all. And while I could have done that with my Synology NAS, as I mentioned in the intro, because that's mechanical hard drives, that's inherently slower, but also the NAS only has a 1 gig Ethernet connection, which is actually too slow in many cases for video editing. It just slows things down a bit too much. So with my HomeLab NAS, I made sure I put a 10 gigabit card in there, and then I end up buying a Ubiquiti 10 gigabit switch as well. And I made some mistakes along the way, which I spoke about in another video in the series, but overall I'm really happy with the Ubiquiti switch, and the UniFi web console is really nice too. And to be honest, now I'm eyeing up loads of other Ubiquiti products. They've actually brought out a mini switch, which is 2.5 gig Ethernet, and that's actually going to be quite a good product. It's priced quite reasonably as well, so I can imagine myself putting that in loads of places in my house. And at least then I've upgraded from gigabit connections throughout my house to 2.5 gig connections throughout my house. And then in my study, I've got the 10 gig connection, and that's because my workstation PC also now has a 10 gigabit card. So basically, when I'm doing video editing, this and my HomeLab NAS are connected over 10 gigabit uplink, which is really nice. But it wasn't actually plain sailing getting there. I couldn't actually fit my 10 gigabit networking card in my old workstation computer, because I had a small micro ATX case and a micro ATX motherboard with only 2 full-size X16 PCI Express slots, but one of them was being covered completely by the graphics card in the other slot, which is kind of a general problem with micro ATX motherboards, and I spoke about that in another video if you wanted to check that out. But essentially I realized, because I don't just want this for gaming, I also want to do video editing and have 4 expansion cards, I decided to upgrade this to an ATX motherboard. So I went out and bought a really good Gigabyte Aorus Elite motherboard. It's still on AM4 because I didn't want to change my RAM or my CPU, because my CPU is a 12-core monster, the 5900X, and I've got 64 gigs of RAM in there, so I didn't really want to change that, but I knew that I wanted to actually get a new motherboard so that I could get that expansion card in there, the 10 gig network card, so that was a fun upgrade too. And I went with a slightly better case as well. It's got space for more fans, it's got a little bit of RGB, and I'm not that into RGB, but the case does look pretty nice with it, and it only cost me like £30, which was a bargain, because I didn't want to really spend loads on actually upgrading from micro ATX to ATX, just to get a 10 gigabit networking card. So in total, I think I spent just over £100 on the motherboard and the case, and then another £30 on the gigabit networking card. which is still fairly expensive just to get 10 gig networking, but I mean, just over £150 isn't too bad, I guess, and at least I've got that for future-proofing options. And it justifies the cost of buying my Ubiquiti switch too, because otherwise nothing would have been on 10 gig other than my HomeLab NAS, so at least I've got 2 devices and I can kind of justify that purchase. The next upgrade I actually made was with my monitor situation, because I used to just have that one monitor, and as I mentioned, that meant that I was constantly alt-tab in between all my different windows, which just doesn't work. And that's definitely the case when I do a YouTube video based on having a script or something like that, because essentially it's nice to have the script in another window, and then when you video editing, you can just see exactly where you are in the script, and if you make a mistake, you can just do a cut, move to the next bit in the script or the video editing software, and make sure that you know exactly where you're at. So having that second monitor is really nice. And I don't always rely on a script when I'm filming. Like right now, I'm actually relying on just some bullet point notes, which are just over there. So the camera's there, and I just got my laptop there with literally 10 bullet point notes. But either way, it's really nice to actually have another window just to put my script, all my bullet points or File Explorer and all the other stuff there. And then I can just have my video editing software open in the other one. And I don't lose that context switching from constantly having to close that window via alt and tabbing. The other thing I've done is I completely run out of backup space, because originally I had 2 1/2 terabyte drives on my workstation computer, and then with my Synology NAS I had another terabyte of backup space, and while that might sound like a lot, I have more than a terabyte's worth of video content, and as a result I was constantly having to juggle my active projects and my other projects between my NAS and my computer, as I'm to move files around. Then my backup space kept running out of disk space as well, so I was having to kind of look at which files I might not need and then delete those just so I can stay under my 1 terabyte quota. And yes, I could have upgraded my Synology C2 backup space to have more than a terabyte quota, but to be honest it's quite expensive. So what I did instead is I went out and got a Hetzner backup space, paying for 5 terabytes of space, which is plenty for now, but certainly I can upgrade that in the future if I needed more. And that wraps up the upgrades I've made so far. And while there are some future upgrades I might want to make, overall I'm really happy with things. And that's because right now I'm filming with a camera that's on record, and then I got my audio here, just a little lavalier mic that goes into a Tascam recorder. Basically when I'm done, I sit on this computer, I use a little SD card reader that I've got plugged into my computer, and I transfer those files straight over to the HomeLab NAS. I could actually plug the recorder into my HomeLab NAS directly, but to be honest, because this has a 10 gig link, it's easier just to put it in there, transfer the files over, and then I come into DaVinci Resolve and I do all my editing in there. And as I mentioned, that's all over the network, but I've also got the 2 monitor situations, so things are a lot quicker now, and I don't have some dodgy wireless mice which constantly causes lag and forces me to miss what I'm actually trying to click on and things like that, which was incredibly annoying. So overall, creating video content is a lot quicker now due to the upgrades I've made. And I'm really enjoying creating video content for all of you. I hope you're enjoying some of my videos, and as always, I'm eager to receive feedback, so please leave comments as needed, either to tell me what good job I'm doing or where I'm doing a terrible job, so please do let me know. And thank you for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please click the thumbs up button, and please subscribe to see more videos like this, unless you're already subscribed, in which case, thank you for watching, and thanks for watching this video generally. Bye.